This episode is brought to you by the Weather Channel app. Did you know the app can help you forecast more than just the weather? With allergy tracking and flu risk mapping. So you know when to stay inside and load up on podcast. As well as air quality and UV indexing. So you know when to get outside, load up on sunscreen and podcast. Forecast more of what you love with the Weather Channel app.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. That's the sound of switching your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling. Harness the best converting checkout and same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Stop leaving sales on the table. Discover why millions trust Shopify to build, grow, and run their business. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech23.
Welcome to the Inside the Boards podcast, the podcast dedicated to helping you learn to think like a question writer so you can study smarter, not harder, and succeed in medical school. And now here's your host, Patrick Beeman.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. You can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial by going to InsideTheBoards.com/audible. Support the podcast while keeping up on your pleasure reading by listening to the books you don't have time to read because you're studying. InsideTheBoards.com/audible for details. All right, Boards Insiders, welcome to 2017. The first episode of this year is going to be a little different. I have Maneesh Sethi on, who is the founder of Pavlok, which is a company whose flagship product is a wearable device that is helping people learn to develop good habits and rid themselves of bad ones. But before we launch into that interview and some of the learning hacks that Maneesh provides within the conversation that we had, I just wanted to give you a little update on the podcast and what we have planned. The next episode I'll release will be our final Match Smarter episode on pediatrics with Dr. Aaron McGuffin, who was also a guest on this show in episode 7. He is the founder of Universal Notes. And while I meant to release this prior to the December 30th contest that Doximity was running, I got a little behind in the editorial calendar, so stay tuned for that. We've also got great interviews lined up with guests representing Figure One, the Instagram for doctors, Sketchy Medical, which I know a lot of you guys are using for your boards preparation, and a few hosts from other popular MedEd podcasts who are going to come on to kind of talk about their own shows, their approach to learning, and help me with a Step 1 review series that I hope to release by March, maybe at the end of February. We'll do a series to help you prepare for Step 1 on the go. Also, check out the InsideTheBoards.com website, where we're going to be increasing the amount of blog posts we do related to medical education and giving you advice on how to prepare for the boards, how to study, what resources to use, and whatnot. In the interest of full disclosure, occasionally within the website's posts, I just wanted to let you guys know there are some affiliate links within there, which means if you decide to purchase something that we recommend, and it's not all the links, but there are some of them, we do get a small commission for that. It is small, but I'm hoping if you think some of those pieces of advice and recommendations are helpful, that you'll consider using the relevant links on the website to purchase. It does help out the podcast. I'd say keep the lights on, but really what I mean is keep up the hosting plan for the podcast, the website, etc. And on that note as well, we are looking into doing some sponsorships with companies that we find have something to offer to you as far as a relevant product or service. I do mean this show to serve your needs, so there won't be a lot of so-called like ad content, but we are going to highlight some companies that have something to offer you that either myself would use or have used. We will try to keep it unobtrusive and limited in terms of those segments within the podcast. Again, thank you so much for taking time to listen to this show. It means a lot to me to see the thousands of you who have taken the time to download these episodes. And if you like what you hear, please consider sharing the podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or with your friends, as well as sending us an email to info@insidetheboards.com if you have suggestions on what topics you would like covered in the podcast, some feedback, good or bad, or suggestions on who you would like to have interviewed, or if you yourself would like to come on the show because you have something to offer your fellow MedEd learners. I'd love to hear from you. With that being said, we'll launch into the interview with Maneesh, and stay tuned to the end to find out how you can get 50% off a Pavlok device thanks to Maneesh's generous offer, or go to insidetheboards.com/episode 019 for details. All right, so on today's show, I have kind of a different guest than usual and a different kind of focus today. We have Maneesh Sethi, who is the founder of Pavlok, which is a wearable device that can help you break bad habits, and God knows we all have probably a few of those, but also help you create good ones. So I wanted to invite him on to just kind of tell us how that might help make medical school more efficient for students. So thank you so much, Maneesh, for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to chat.
All right, so what is Pavlok? That sounds suspiciously familiar as a name. Sort of a leading question, I suppose.
Yeah, obviously. Okay, so Pavlok, the company is different than Pavlok, the product. And so at the company, our goal is to help people get control of their own behavior. When people want to stop, break bad habits or form good ones, we find and use the best methodology and the best systems and the best technology to create like the perfect way for individuals to achieve their goals. And we started off with this product called Pavlok, which is where it came from. And I used to have trouble getting stuff done, probably like a lot of your listeners. I would always wait until the last minute before a deadline was due, and then I would pull an all-nighter, and then I would get it done always, 99% of the time, but it would always be last minute, right? I said, let me experiment with different ways to make myself execute upon this. And I hired a girl whose job was to follow me around, and every time I went off task, she would slap me in the face. And I wrote a blog post about this, and it came down to like my productivity skyrocketed to 98%. And I got 4 months of writing done in 4 days. I was fascinated by this. And so I called up a friend and I said, hey, what if we made like a dog collar that could zap me if I went on Facebook? And he said, oh my God, let's build this at Radio Shack today. Let's go. It was going to be for a blog post, but it ended up being, I had the idea. I thought this is really interesting. There's a lot of wearables tracking what you do. This one's changing what you do. So with Pavlok, we developed a device that's basically a device that can vibrate, beep, and release electrical impulses. And it rewards you with positive sensations when you do good things. And it uses electric stimulus to help reduce bad ones. So our core focus has been on helping people quit bad habits. We have a very powerful Pavlovian way, which is what you were trying to edge towards, using a classical conditioning technique known as aversion therapy. You ever get like really drunk on tequila and then like the smell of tequila makes you sick? Has that ever happened to you?
Not tequila, but there was a unfortunate run-in with a bourbon in Austria in 2003. But yes, for 10 years. You know
how you like used to like it and then you got sick at one point and then from that, like you just stopped liking it?
Absolutely.
There's like a cringe in like the pit of your stomach.
Yeah, like a visceral reaction against it.
It's called an aversion. And you can create that using a Pavlovian conditioning technique of association. Just like Pavlov rang the bell. If you experience an uncomfortable stimulus while you type in facebook.com or while you bite your nails or while you drink alcohol, your brain will start to create the association. So we have a 5-day program for helping people break a variety of bad habits.
Why 5 days?
It's just a 5-day get started in 5-day program. The first, it's honestly, it should be a little bit longer, but the way it's designed right now is the first day is like an introduction to how the system works. And we ask you to push the button and track while you do the behaviors for the first few days. The second day and the third day are meditation sessions, and we introduce you into cognitive behavioral therapy practices and identifying your triggers. And then on day 4 and 5, we teach how to do the zap sessions, where you'll do the bad habit while the device releases a stronger electrical zap. That's one side of the business, but the core of the core of the product is it's a haptic feedback stimulus that can do a variety of patterns, and you can use it in a variety of ways. We're targeting bad habits, and we're targeting helping people wake up. And so right now, one of our biggest products is it's called the Shot Clock, and we're definitely going to change that name. But it helps you. It vibrates to wake you up in the morning. If you don't get up, it will beep, and then it will start to zap and release the zap until you wake up. And people who use it consistently start getting up before the zap goes off because they're like awake with adrenaline. And so we have now released a new feature that's pretty cool. Every time you wake up, it vibrates to wake you up. You have a minute to get out of bed and do jumping jacks. And if you don't do the jumping jacks, it will start to zap. So like the alarm is triggered by you actually getting up and out of bed rather than, so yeah, those are the things that we've been working on heavily. And yeah.
So let's talk about some of those practicalities. Let's say I am a medical student who wants to build a morning routine that's effective, that helps me study, that helps me learn what I need to do so I can avoid more like cramming type sessions you mentioned. If I purchase the wearable watch type device, the Pavlok flagship product, how do I use it? What practically happens the month I start?
Using it to form a new habit is a focus of ours starting in January. And so I'll tell you what we're doing there. Right now, at this individual second, we haven't released it yet. It's all focused on bad habits and waking you up early. We have one feature, which is our productivity Chrome extension, which knows what websites you're on and your to-do list. It syncs with Rescue Time and Todoist, and it lets you choose your to-do list items. It makes you stick to a Pomodoro. Like you got to do like 30-minute sessions of studying. Then the key focus is you set blacklists for your websites you want to get off of. So 20 minutes per hour on Facebook or 15 minutes per day on Reddit or whatever. And if you go over it, then the device will start to beep and zap as you approach the end of those timelines. So that's a good way to kind of keep you off of unproductive sites.
Yeah.
But the way to form a new habit is much deeper. So the way to make yourself, like, you can get off Facebook and Reddit, but you might check your phone or you might, you can always find an excuse. If you don't have clear goals and you don't have a clear methodology of what you want to achieve, and you haven't like set yourself up for success with a positive habit, they're two different things. They're two very different things.
You can't remove one thing without replacing it with another, essentially, right?
That's not what I'm saying. I don't posit that.
Okay.
I'm saying removing something like an aversion towards alcohol, you may replace it with another type of alcohol.
Sure.
Of course, it could be done like that, but it also might be done and utilized to help you drink water. So in that case, you're utilizing it to substitute. I guess what I'm saying is basically the same thing. When you are correct. Like when you experience a trigger, if you experience an aversion to the smoke, your reaction will be something different. And in the same way, so breaking bad habits is about identifying and doing the behavior while you experience the zap and doing it like mindfully towards wanting to remove the behavior. That's breaking a habit. Forming a new habit is about doing something consistently for many days in a row based at the same time or based after the same trigger. And so starting in January, we're working on like a challenge, essentially, like a big group community. So the breakdown is getting yourself to do something is something that a device can never do by itself. You need like a lot of people need a community and a coach or a challenge to get someone to do something for a period of time and to form the habit properly. So our device helps reinforce and helps remind you through vibrations and zaps. You can give your friends access so that if they succeed and you don't, they get to zap you, things like that. Like it becomes a social community, it becomes a tool for habit formation. You can use it for sure for habit formation if you're dedicated, but our goal is to figure out what is the actual right way to increase the efficacy for habit formation. Starting in January, we have our first program coming out.
Okay, that's awesome.
You don't need a Pavlok to use it, which is cool. You don't need the hardware. You can join the group. It's a Facebook group and a community, coaches in a challenge, where you can join and work with other people who are forming New Year's resolutions, basically around habits.
So let's say that med students, doctors in general, surprisingly have a very high incidence of nail biting, actually. And I've seen on the website that there's a number of testimonials of people who have successfully rid themselves of that bad habit. What's the kind of time frame from initiating your attempt at ridding yourself of a bad habit from the time you implement Pavlok till the time you can say, I've essentially gotten rid of the habit I meant to rid myself of?
So of our users who complete the 5 days, we have about 55 to 65% success rate in breaking their bad habit. So they quit the nail biting when we survey them like in a month or two. Of that 55 to 65%, about half of them do it in 7 days or less.
Okay.
And they don't need it anymore. And I'd say like a quarter of them are like within the first 2 zaps, like immediately. It's like, this is not like, we certainly don't like think, I'm not like saying that these are common results or anything, but, the way that the brain processes it, there's like never been an instantaneous negative sensation for that behavior ever. Like the habit is stored in the reptile brain, which likes what it likes and it doesn't like what it doesn't like. And that's it. It has no thought. You've never had a negative instantaneous sensation at the same time. Your body's never felt it. So for many of our users, or for some of our users, when you press the button while you bite your nails the first few times, like just the act of keeping it on your wrist, you're like, oh, I don't want to do that because I'll have to press the button again. You just stop doing it. You see a lot of people just keep it on the wrist and stop doing it after the first few because it was very aversive. The main point is about 55% of people finish in the first 7 days.
Okay, awesome. So there's some suggestion that a sort of enhanced approach to learning could take place within the literature. Some researchers like Dunsmore, Murdy, DeVici, and Phelps published a paper in Nature in 2015 where they talked about memory enhanced learning, or using essentially an electrical stimulus to increase retention and recollection of information. And what they did was they put 2 groups together, showed some pictures of tools and then pictures of animals, and then paired either the animals or the tool viewing session to an electrical stimulus. Then retested next day, what sequence essentially that they had been presented this information, and found that the shot group essentially had much better retention and recall of these pictures at 24 hours post viewing compared to those who did not have their viewing associated with the electrical stimulus. So I wonder if there's a way to use Pavlok, the wearable device, to help enhance things you really need to know. Maybe your weakness in approaching a big test is going to be neurology, and you have to study for 6 weeks, right? So maybe during the neurology learning, you stimulate yourself with the Pavlok's electrical zap. Perhaps it could help you learn and increase your attention. I don't know. Will that be part of the thing in January, or is there room for that to kind of figure out for students who are trying to learn?
So the study that you were mentioning is interesting, and it had a second part that's fascinating. So they had these people come in and categorize tools and animals, and then come in again the next day, and they were zapped either for the tools or for the animals. And then the ones who were zapped for tools remembered the tools better. The ones who were zapped for animals remember the animals better, but they also remembered items from the previous day in the same category that they weren't zapped for. It had retroactively reactivated memories in the mind, which means that if I zap myself while I learn your name, I'm likely to remember the name of somebody last night at a party who I didn't zap myself for, which is a really powerful trick for name memories.
Or perhaps when you're reviewing material at night from lecture during the day, there may be an enhancement in learning that material from the morning.
Yeah, so I wrote an integration with a flashcard app called Anki. You might be familiar with it, spaced repetition. And I set it up so that if you get it wrong, you get a zap. And that was pretty fun. I learned words really fast. That code has been removed since that we deprecated that API, but we have a new developer kit for developers. So it would take, a good developer 3 days to write an integration where you could have a flashcard app that would vibrate, beep, or zap depending on if you get it right. Second, that's the thing that I think is a very quick, easy solution for learning fast. I think it's a great idea. I should probably do it at some point. On the second side, I've been working on a little app for my nephews and nieces, and basically a flashcard that shows words and letters and gives Morse code at the same time. and vibration patterns, so that you would feel as you read a stimulus, like the way that the brain learns is through sensory inputs, you remember faces and smells and sounds, but names and numbers are really hard. You have to figure out a trick to associate it with a physical sense in order to retain the memory in the brain. And so Morse code, if you associate multiple recurring vibrant patterns at the same time, should help you recall the item faster. So last year I went to the US National Memory Championships, and I gave a couple of the winners the Pavlok to test out with zapping different patterns for different words you're trying to learn. It's got really promising results. We didn't have the programming ready for them to do. They can already memorize 1,000 things, and we have like 7 settings. So it's not going to add too much value in the initial stages. But the idea of receiving varieties of patterns as you learn words should help you be able to recall it. And sometimes you're trying to remember a word on the tip of your tongue, and you think of the picture, and then the picture helps jog the memory. The idea is that you'd be able to feel it too. So if you're trying to jog the memory, you have a third thing to think about. Like the word bird feels like a pattern that you learned in your neurology exam while you were studying. So you'll be like, oh, that's right. On the left of my hand, that's right. That's the word. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of talk about learning styles, and the easy ones are, I'm an auditory learner, I'm a visual learner, but there's also kinesthetic learning, that incorporates the movement, the touch, the forgotten sense. But yeah, I mean, having that sort of stimulus to incorporate all your senses probably builds a stronger mental model for whatever it is you're trying to remember.
Yeah, it's fascinating because this month at the company has been a big discussion about who are we, because all of these things are part of the same product. The product is just vibrating, beeping, zapping. The only thing we've done is create a new way to add sensory input to the human body. That's what we've done. But you can take that out and look at it in a million different directions, because it's just like a new way to experience information. So learning has been on my mind forever, but bad habits are what we were good at because we have abnormal rates for quitting, nail biting, and smoking. Now it's a focus on, it's interesting. It's trying to identify how can we make this thing right for the world is a very curious problem to solve. So learning, I think, is a fascinating way of looking at it as a positive product.
Yeah, definitely. Well, okay. So what can students do to get a Pavlok? Where do they go?
They go to pavlok.com. I'll give you guys a 50% off coupon. If you're in medical school, you guys should definitely be trying this out.
So there you have it. Head over to pavlok.com. And after you go through the checkout process, at the final page before you pay, there will be an option to put in a discount code. Put in inside the boards to get a 50% off discount, making a Pavlok only $75. So Maneesh, any other, hacks for learning that you can provide?
I'll give you a very quick, simple system that doesn't require any hardware. Just how would you improve your life if you want to get yourself to focus on something? Here's the short version. You should set yourself up for success. And the way to do that is to identify what are the things that you would like to do that you're not doing. Just basically, the secret is make yourself wake up 20 to 30 minutes earlier and start working on that one thing right there. Create a new space of time that never existed before and insert into that time the one activity you want to do. And you can make it for your first 2 weeks, just 1 minute of that task. If it's study in a book, just 1 minute is all you have to do for the first week. Second week, increase it to 2 or 3 or 4 minutes. But try to insert it either before you wake up or right after you wake up so that you can make it the first thing you do in the day. The habit will form. That is how you can get yourself to go from being a kind of person who never studies to the person who's always ahead of the game. Just a simple 1 minute trick for a few weeks.
Well, that's some good takeaway advice. I appreciate that. So thanks, Maneesh, for your time.
Take care, man. Bye.
And use the code inside the boards at checkout off pavlok.com to get 50% off. And I will also put the link in the show's webpage. The music for today's show is thanks to The World is a Beautiful Place and I Am No Longer Afraid to Die. The song is I Can Be Afraid of Anything off Harmlessness. You can follow them on Twitter at TWIABP, that's The World is a Beautiful Place, or check out their website, theworldisabeautifulplace.com. Thanks, guys, for letting us use the tune, and keep making great music.
Inside the Boards is in no way affiliated with the United States Medical Licensing Examination, Comprehensive Osteopathic Medical License Examination, National Board of Medical Examiners, the National Council of State Boards of Nursing, National Board of Osteopathic Medical Examiners, or any other licensing or examination body. All exam names and other trademarks are the property of the respective trademark owners. Content discussed during the program is the property of Inside the Boards or the attributed trademark owner and may not be reproduced without permission from the appropriate entity. Inside the Boards fully adheres to the respective policies on irregular behavior outlined by the aforementioned credentialing bodies.